Arsenal are so close, you can almost taste it, but can they hold their nerve this time? There is a feeling in the air right now that every Arsenal fan knows too well. That mix of excitement and nervousness, that voice in the back of your head saying things are going really well, but also asking what could go wrong next. And honestly, that is not a bad place to be, because right now Arsenal are in a genuinely brilliant position. They just beat Sporting CP in Lisbon in the Champions League. They are sitting at the top of the Premier League table, and this Saturday they get to play Bournemouth at the Emirates, a game where a win could put them 12 points clear at the top. 12 points, think about that for a second. If Arsenal beat Bournemouth on Saturday and Manchester City fail to win their game against Chelsea on Sunday, the gap at the top of the table becomes 12 points. That is not just a lead, that is a statement. That is Arsenal saying to everyone in the country, and honestly to everyone in Europe, we are here, we are serious, and we are not going away. But this is Arsenal. And you know as well as anyone in Olivia's sports community that nothing is ever quite as simple as it looks. So let us get into it. Let us talk about what is actually happening with the squad, who is fit, who is not, what the young kid from the academy is doing that has everyone talking, and why the next few weeks could define this entire season. The win in Lisbon that reminded everyone what Arsenal are about before we get to Saturday. We have to talk about Tuesday night. Arsenal went to Lisbon to face Sporting CP in the first leg of their Champions League quarter-final. It was not the easiest of nights. Sporting are a good side at home, loud stadium, passionate fans, the kind of atmosphere that can knock a team off their game. But Arsenal stayed calm, they stayed disciplined. And then Kai Havertz came off the bench and scored the only goal of the game, 1-0, job done, advantage Arsenal. What was also exciting about that night was how many players Mikel Arteta was able to bring back into the picture. After what felt like a long stretch of injury problems, the squad is starting to look a bit fuller again, a bit more like the Arsenal we know can compete at the very highest level. But here is the thing, getting back some players also creates a new kind of problem, because now Arteta has more quality to choose from, and that means harder decisions about who starts and who does not. And some of those decisions could be really awkward in the nicest possible way. So who is coming back, who is still struggling, and who is the teenager that everyone cannot stop talking about? Let us go through it all. The injury update you need to know about, right? Let us start with the good news. Eberechi Eze is back in training. If you have been following Arsenal closely this season, you will know exactly why that is exciting. Eze has been one of the most important players in this team since joining from Crystal Palace. He brings creativity, unpredictability, and the ability to unlock defences in ways that very few other players in the squad can. He got injured in mid-March. He scored in a 2-0 Champions League win over Bayer Leverkusen, and then that was it. The calf gave way and he was out. The early reports were not great. People were saying he could miss up to 6 weeks. That would have taken him out of some really big games, possibly even some of the most important matches of the entire season. But here is the update that has lifted the mood at London Colney. Eze has returned to training ahead of schedule. 6 weeks turned into less than 4. And there is genuine talk that he might even be available for Saturday against Bournemouth. Now, Arteta will be careful. You do not rush a player back from a calf injury and risk them breaking down again, especially not in the middle of April when every single game matters. But even having Eze available to come off the bench, even just having him as an option, changes the kind of choices Arsenal can make in a game. Ask yourself this, if Arsenal are drawing with Bournemouth in the second half and need something a bit different, would you not want Eberechi Eze waiting on the sideline? Of course you would. Having him back is a genuine boost. Now for the slightly less comfortable news. Martin Odegaard was absent from Arsenal's first training session back at London Colney after returning from Portugal. Odegaard started the game against Sporting CP but was not seen training on Thursday. This is the kind of thing that makes Arsenal fans nervous, because Odegaard is not just a good player, he is the captain, he is the person the whole team looks to for leadership in the big moments. When Arsenal are struggling to find their rhythm, he is the one who picks up the ball and makes things happen. Missing one training session does not necessarily mean he is injured. Players are often managed carefully after big European away games, but given Arsenal's history with injuries at the worst possible times, you understand why people are watching this very closely. Arteta will give a proper injury update on Friday at his pre-match press conference, and that will tell us a lot more. Fingers crossed the skipper is fine. Along with Odegaard, Ricardo Calafiori also missed Thursday's training despite starting in Lisbon. Again, this may well be just rest and management rather than a serious problem, but it is worth keeping an eye on. The players who are still definitely working their way back to full fitness are Bukayo Saka, Piero Hincapié and Jurrien Timber. None of them took part in Thursday's training session. Saka has been out since the Carabao Cup final, and he was also pulled from the England squad during the March international break. There is no clear date yet for when he will be back, and every week that passes without him is a week where Arsenal have to find a way to be effective without one of their most dangerous players. Hincapie picked up a hamstring injury while on international duty with Ecuador. That kind of injury always needs careful handling, because if you push it too fast, you can easily make it much worse. Timber has not played since the win over Everton last month, when he took a knock to the ankle and also picked up a groin problem at the same time. 2 injuries at once is tough to come back from quickly. So the squad situation is this: Arsenal are getting healthier, but they are not fully healthy. They have options coming back, which is great, but they still have some real concerns, especially around their captain going into one of the biggest periods of the season. Now, can we talk about the 16-year-old? Okay, we have to talk about Max Dowman. If you have not been paying close attention, here is the quick version. Max Dowman is 16 years old. He is a product of the Arsenal Academy, and he has gone from being a name that only the most hardcore fans knew to being someone that former England internationals are calling a potential title-winning asset. That is not a small jump. That is extraordinary. Let us go back to the win over Everton. Dowman came on and he was involved in both goals. He scored his first ever Premier League goal at 16. Think about that. Think about what it takes to go out on a Premier League pitch in a game that actually matters and affect it the way he did. Then came the game against Sporting CP in Lisbon, not a youth game, not a friendly, a Champions League quarter-final, one of the biggest stages in European football. And Dowman came off the bench and looked like he belonged there. He was calm, he was direct. He was not overawed by the occasion. And that is exactly the kind of thing that gets experienced footballers and coaches talking. Rio Ferdinand, who you will know from his time as one of the best defenders in the world at Manchester United and England, was talking about Dowman on his own show. And what he said was genuinely fascinating. Ferdinand said Dowman could be the key to Arsenal getting over the line in the title race. He called him that good. But here is the really interesting part of what Ferdinand said. He pointed out that Dowman does not carry the mental weight of previous failures. The older players in the squad, the ones who have been at Arsenal for 3, 4, 5 years, they have been close to the title before and not won it. They know what it feels like to be in this position and then watch it slip away in the final weeks. That experience is valuable in some ways, but it can also create doubt. It can make you tighten up when you need to be free. Dowman does not have any of that. He has no scars from those near misses. He just plays football because he loves it and he is very good at it. Ferdinand said Arteta might need someone like Dowman to be fearless, to go out there without overthinking it and just make things happen. He said the key is to lean on that quality without putting too much pressure on him, and that is actually a really smart point. Sometimes in sport, not knowing too much can be a superpower. The young player who does not know he is supposed to be nervous often ends up being the most dangerous player on the pitch. Does that mean Dowman should start every game from here until the end of the season? Probably not. But using him cleverly, bringing him on at the right moments, putting him in situations where his energy and fearlessness can make a difference, that could be a really powerful weapon for Arteta to use. What do you think? Would you trust a 16-year-old with big minutes in a title race? It is a genuine question, and honestly, there is no wrong answer here. Let us hear it in the comments. The title race is right there. What happens next? This is the part where we look at the big picture, because the games coming up for Arsenal are not just big, they are potentially season-defining. Saturday, Bournemouth at the Emirates. A win puts Arsenal 12 points clear if City drop points at Chelsea on Sunday. Then next week, Sporting CP come to North London for the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final. Arsenal already lead 1-0 from the first leg, so they just need to protect that lead or add to it. Home crowd, home advantage. This is absolutely winnable. And then on April 19th, Manchester City at the Etihad. Now that game, that is the one everyone has been circling on the calendar for weeks. Arsenal versus City, closest rivals in the title race, away from home for Arsenal. The kind of game where seasons are won and lost. If Arsenal can beat Bournemouth on Saturday, handle Sporting in the week, and then go to the Etihad and win, or at least not lose, they will be in an incredible position. Possibly even in a position where the title is more or less confirmed, but that is a lot of big asks in a short space of time, which is exactly why the injury situation matters so much. You cannot go into 3 massive games in 10 days without depth in your squad. You need players ready to come in and do a job. You need options. The fact that Eze might be coming back matters a lot in that context. The fact that Dowman is available and in form matters a lot. But the Odegaard situation also matters a lot, because if he misses any of these games, Arsenal will really feel his absence. can we also just take a moment to appreciate where Arsenal are right now? They are in the top 4 in the Premier League. They are in the Champions League quarterfinals. Yes, they did not win the FA Cup. That chance went away when Southampton knocked them out earlier in the season. But for a club that has waited so many years to genuinely compete at this level again, being in this position in April is something to feel good about, even if it is a little bit nerve-wracking. The Bournemouth warning you should not ignore. Now, before we get too carried away talking about City and Champions League finals, there is a game this Saturday that actually needs to be handled properly, and Bournemouth are not just turning up to make up the numbers. Here is the thing about Bournemouth that you might not have noticed if you have not been following them closely. They are on an 11-match unbeaten run in the Premier League, 11 games. They have not lost since January 9th, which was the same day Antoine Semenyo left to join Manchester City. They have drawn a lot of those games rather than winning them, which tells you something about their style and also about their solidity. A team that does not lose is a team that is well organised and hard to beat. Andoni Iraola, their manager, has done a brilliant job of making Bournemouth difficult opponents for anyone, and they have had a lot of rest going into this game since their last match was back on March 20th. That is nearly 3 weeks off. They will be fresh. Arsenal, on the other hand, just flew back from Lisbon on Wednesday. They had one training session on Thursday. They have to pick themselves up emotionally and physically and go again by Saturday afternoon. That kind of turnaround is tough. And it is exactly the sort of situation where a fresh, organised, well-rested team like Bournemouth can cause problems. There is also this to consider. Arsenal beat Bournemouth earlier in the season. Declan Rice scored twice in a 3-2 win down at the Vitality Stadium back in January. But Bournemouth will have learned from that game. They will come to the Emirates with a plan. So if you are watching on Saturday and the game feels tight in the first half, do not panic. Do not assume something is going wrong. Trust that Arteta has prepared the team well and that Arsenal have the quality to win, even when they have to be patient. What Arteta has to figure out, let us think about the selection puzzle that Arteta is dealing with right now. It is actually quite interesting. He has Kai Havertz, who scored the winner against Sporting CP from the bench and is clearly in great form. He has Max Dowman, who has shown he can make an impact at the highest level. He potentially has Eze coming back. He has a squad that is deeper than it has been for a while, but he also has players who are not fully fit, a quick turnaround between games, and a run of fixtures that demand he gets his selections right, both for Saturday and for the weeks ahead. Does he play Havertz from the start after his goal in midweek? Does he give Dowman a bigger role? How does he manage Eze's return to make sure the player stays healthy for the long run? And crucially, what does the team look like if Odegaard cannot play on Saturday? These are not easy questions, but they are also the sign of a squad that is in a much better place than it was a few months ago. Having too many players to choose from is a much nicer problem to have than not having enough. Arteta is a careful manager. He thinks about these things deeply. He will not just throw people in because they are available. He will have a plan, and we should trust that plan even if we do not fully understand it in the moment. What we do know is this: Arsenal have the quality to beat Bournemouth. They have the quality to beat Sporting in the second leg. And on their best day, they have the quality to go to the Etihad and beat Manchester City.
Whether those best days come at the right times is the only question that matters. A message to every Arsenal fan in this community: look, if you are reading this as part of Olivia's sports community, you already know what it means to follow this club. You know the history, you know the hope, you know the pain of getting close and not quite making it. But this year feels different, not just a little different, properly different. This Arsenal squad has character. They went to Lisbon on a Tuesday night and won. They kept going when things got hard earlier in the season. They found ways to get results even when key players were out injured. And now, as the season reaches its most important stage, they are in a better position than anyone had a right to expect in those darker moments. 12 points clear would be huge. A Champions League semi-final would be incredible. And if Eze gets back, if Saka eventually returns, if Dowman keeps doing what Dowman does, if the captain stays fit,
this team is genuinely capable of something special. So here is what we want to know from you. What is your honest feeling going into Saturday? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you one of those fans who refuses to get too optimistic until the title is actually mathematically confirmed? That is completely valid, by the way. And what about Dowman? Would you start him against Bournemouth or bring him on later? Would you rest a few players with Sporting coming next week or go full strength on Saturday? Drop your thoughts below. This community is at its best when everyone is talking and sharing their feelings about the club we love, because that is what this is really about. It is not just about results and tables and injury updates. It is about being part of something together, about following a club through the good days and the difficult ones and feeling every single moment with people who understand exactly why it matters so much. Arsenal are so close right now. They are right on the edge of something special and we get to watch it happen together. Come on, you Gunners, let us see it through.